brought up before, what actually changed the political landscape long before any of this other political stuff came along? The iron pill. That was the kettlebell. Everybody forgets what happened when the kettlebell came out in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, how it changed men. That suddenly men were lifting these mighty, strange, weighted implements. And so what started to happen was the strong nerd. So this wasn't just the idea of the 1990s nerd gone cool. The kettlebell introduced the nerd gone strong as a monkey. And lots of people saw this. Like Joe Rogan is a seller of kettlebells. Actually, Joe Rogan started a company that was a second or third generation company selling fitness equipment that other guys came up with in the in the 1990s and 2000s. And he even hired some of the people who were from that early scene to start his company on it. People don't understand what changed men and women. CrossFit was a complete and total change in the culture of athleticism. And one of the most important things about that change, and it's interesting how it didn't filter into schools. That there's some places that it filtered into schools, but for the most part, the kettlebell revolution, the CrossFit revolution in training, that people started to train the way that we once trained a long time ago. The idea of lift weights, strength to you, progressive calisthenics, so convict conditioning, if I'm remembering right, convict conditioning came out in 2009. So the idea of the people doing the Jedi push-up or the one-arm pull-up is something going back to the Obama administration or back to the Bush administration. And it did not filter into schools. The reason it didn't filter into schools is one of the greatest parts of the miseducation of the public has been physical education. Physical education has been one of the places that throughout my entire life has been basically a sports equipment acquisition department. That what physical education fundamentally has been ever since I was a kid is usually some burnt out sports player who is good at it in college, maybe played on some post-collegiate volleyball team or softball team or something, but they would teach young people sport as if teaching, and really this was the idea, is that in teaching them sport and sort of sportsmanship, they were learning something, which is garbage. That they're learning how to better get along with people, how to play as a team. This is very bumper sticker, very woman thinking. That is why it didn't work. That's why it's miseducation, because typically over about the last generation, women are pretty much good at miseducating the youth so that they are not functional in society. They're more kind of lazy and capricious and full of sass mouth and weirdness and stuff. So the physical miseducation of children for about a generation has now created solidly the beta male. These men who are grossly misshapen, they think there's something really special about themselves, but they've never fully developed an adult nervous system. Now, this is really important. I actually had to really think about how people don't get, why does the image of the beta male look the way it does? Because they are misshapen by improper physical education. They don't know how to use an axe. They can't use a maul. They're not equipped sort of neurologically to deal with the ardor of physical work. And humans are built around physical work. This idea like, oh, but I could program things. Fuck you. And it's like, yeah, well, almost, there's a huge portion of the world who can do that. Right now, you're going to get remunerated for showing up to almost any labor job twice. See how you do with, finding the sweet position as a programmer that you're going to love. And it's also then this. One of the horrible truths about something like labor work is there's a reason I never call in sick. Labor work is good for you. Physical ardor is good for the body. Physical discipline is good for the body and good for the mind and good for the soul. We've forgotten this because we've become a weak, deracinated people. And the wisdom of a past age, when people trained harder and knew how to use their bodies better, is growing weak in our society. So really, one of the things that started the right wing, like one of the most right-wing people I've ever gotten letters from, was Zach Evan Esch, weightlifter and wrestling coach. He was the guy, the underground strength certification. And he made me really think outside of the box of how to train others and train myself. You don't have equipment. There's always something that you could use as equipment, or, well, shoot, anything that is arduous is good training if you do it right. So that part, that way of thinking influenced the right before the right was the right. Like, so most of this kind of stuff would have been things that happened even prior to the Bush administration. This would have been happening during it. The kettlebell revolution happened during the Bush administration. It happened during the Middle East wars. So you started to see people sending in pictures of their kettlebells over in Iraq, their kettlebells over in Afghanistan, and that, with old tires, chin-up bars, and some kettlebells, they were able to keep their unit in top condition. And then there was the thing of, and when you don't have kettlebells, you have all these other typical implements of labor and storage and things like that. Ammo boxes, the multi-gallon jug. I think they're 10s, 6 or 10s. They go on the back of the Jeep. I've got one for water. But those kind of deals that you lift those certain ways, and then it got into the lifts. All the various lifts, the way that to teach those lifts, and that a lot of the way of teaching those lifts started to change the way we even think of lifting weights and teaching people how to generate the kind of tension, the body tension, the proper body power, and that this shaped 10 to 20 years of fitness. This changed completely the course of the gyms, and like how gyms make their money, how gyms staff. It completely changed the fitness industry, which at that time, the extravagance of the fitness industry at that time was quite amazing. And to see these companies just fold, especially after knowing more about them by being in that industry, to know, like, no, there's not that much to these companies. These are mostly these holding companies that are tied to supplement companies, the kind of places that would hold real estate, that would be, a gym, a place that's the size of a gym, that they're a bunch of, they already have access to the stuff. They just need, now they just need the suckers to pay for the membership, forget they're paying for the membership, not show up, and that's that. So this idea of having the gym membership because you are a high performer was really the idea. It really came out of the 80s. So the boomers trying to endlessly stay young, they wanted to have then the gym, so they would be this high performer. I go to the gym, and then I go to the job, and then I and especially it's associated with like suburban middle class people. It has this thing of like the urban go-getter, that they go out and they hit the bar after the job with the suit, and then they go to the gym next day, rinse and repeat, they living hardcore, when you're a real performer, you're, doing projects. Look at these graphs. Look, here's an advertisement, a woman in glasses and a dude in a suit, and they're looking at graphs and they're both nodding, Oh, look at them thinking. Now they're doing thinking poses. Now they're, and now she's in spin class, She's a top performer, and so this was a great way to make a generation lose themselves to corporate America. Great way. And I got into physical training mostly because it was something to do. Martial arts, and massage therapy. And I really thought that this kind of breakthrough in the world of physical culture, introducing so many physical culture traditions to a new generation in America, I thought it would mean something. It doesn't mean shit. Unhealthy, lazy pieces of shit. That's all there is to it. Just after a while, you're like, why train people when people don't want to be trained? Fuck it. I've got mine. I know my secrets. I've got my health. And so it was one of the greatest miseducations of the American public, is this way that we made sure that of anything, just knowing how to maintain your physical form so that you stayed in decent shape, that you didn't get sick easily, things like that. We didn't even teach that. It's this insistence on making sure a coach or some adult has a job teaching kids how to run in circles. That's what it ended up getting me as time went on. That club sports as education fails. We know it fails. Pavel Tsatsouline and Dan Johns got into this in Easy Strength. It fails. People don't keep doing sports as adults. They don't even go to the gym as adults. When they've been put through the ringer of supposedly all these great sports that are going to teach them sportsmanship and team play and how to hit the ball, and it teaches them, it gets their reflexes, blah, 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 and it's no. Sports as a part of physical education has now failed for about 50 to 60 years as a method of teaching Americans how to use their bodies the best way possible for the longest amount of time in their life. It's totally failed in this regard. We will not give up this model because it employs an adult who is not very useful to the workforce in something, and then on top of it, it's we have this prestigious former sports person. This person used to run in circles they used to run in circles when they were young. They used to chuck a ball, and this ball chucker and circle runner is going to teach the children. They're going to teach them how to do things. Now, this is not you, because you would think at this time let me put it this way. You would think at this time, if physical education was so important, you would think that, like, the Jingluo system, so how the Chinese conceive of human physiognomy, you would think that would have popped up at some point. That they're one of the only groups in the world that has almost a universal system of language around this that is traditional, that we know of. Hindus do as well. It's not as universal. And it's just simply because of the way that India developed, its wrestling developed, its different kinds of, it's not a wrestling ashram, it's got a very specific name, but the way their wrestling schools developed, there is not quite the same universalized language as you encounter with, say, Tai Chi Chuan, where in Tai Chi Chuan the idea of the 8 forces, so like An, Na, Tui, things like that, like these various types of, how to pluck, these various things that are, they might depend upon how a sort of instructor interprets something, but they're a term that you will always hear. Roll back, parry, those kind of things. Those are all terms, and it's just that we don't use these terms well. We had, for literally over a generation, we've been using these terms in a way that's like this mystical thing, and that we really don't get across. Like, no, Tai Chi Chuan is actually a way of understanding wrestling, upright wrestling. It's and a very good way of actually teaching people the fundamental concepts of upright wrestling. It's just that, we refuse to teach it that way because of our demented methods of physical education, so that you get then the martial arts nerd who has never wrestled. So this person might have wrestled plenty doing Tai Chi Chuan, but they've never done, like, Western wrestling. So they won't know, like, why something is called a whizzer. They won't know the wrestling word for something. But they'll know the word for it in Tai Chi Chuan. And they won't understand it in wrestling terms, so they can't teach it in a way that would probably be half as useful. And they teach it in the way that you do in Tai Chi, and a lot of it is for it. It's a lot of it's for people who, it's the slow boat to China. Actually, that's the way that once a martial artist put it. He said, unfortunately, a lot of kung fu is the slow boat to China, and that if you don't learn the idea is that if you don't learn a hard style, you can't learn Chinese soft style. It won't make sense. It'll be a flower fist. It will be a kick. What was it? A jingling jade kick. Flower fist, and it's something like that. It's like jewelry kick or something. That your leg will dangle like jewelry. Be like more like swinging jewelry. It's pretty. So I had always tried to figure out, like, how do you extrapolate the best without having, like, you don't want to teach martial arts to just the average group of average bunch of kids in school. But then finally it started to hit me, no. What it is that we already had this curriculum. It was called gymnastics. We had this curriculum. What it was is that gymnastics was hard, and it required having gymnasts. And gymnasts are far more likely to be women and men who are, like, really legitimately in good condition. There's no way around the exercises of gymnastics. It's just plain out coordination. If you're no good at it, you're not coordinated. That's it. There's no, I'm just not good at this sport. There's no, I'm just going to barely pay attention. I'm going to come over here and chat with my friend, because that's what a lot of it is just letting the kids kind of, they're getting physical. You see, they're walking around and they're being physical by moving their jaws, and like, and a big part of this is because, women are so lazy that they it's, well, I don't want to ruin their fun. We like just sitting around jawing. And most of our lives, we're going to be standing around jawing at our jobs. We're going to do everything to avoid physical labor we can as adults. So, why should, young women have any ability to lift things safely? Why should young women, be taught how to remain svelte? Why should they have any physical coordination whatsoever? Now, the big part about with physical education, proper physical education, and it really is going to be kind of the thing that's going to change this forever, is proper physical education makes your nervous system develop properly. That's what we're seeing with so many young people. Their body has not matured along even normal lines. That's how lazy they are. That's how unused their nervous system is. It's not equipped to it, like their proprioception. So their 3D sort of understanding of themselves in space. What proprioception really comes from is you having internal sensations of stress and strain on your muscles. You mostly get this out of the ends, if I remember. This is mostly happening in the ends of your muscle bellies. That proprioception is telling you where you are. Like, actually, like, if you're standing, if you're sitting, if you're laying down. Proprioception is a big part of you knowing that. People who don't have proprioception, you will see this happen in certain correlated disorders to autism. So the autistic boy who will start flailing the body around. You'll see it usually happen at the waist or the hip, and they kind of bow, but really rapidly, like to the point where you think they're going to toss their body over and forward onto their head. Some people have seen this where, like, an autistic boy will be like, it'll be PE time for the handicapped kids. An autistic boy will have a basketball and he will be bouncing it, and then suddenly his whole body starts moving forward and backward at this rapid pace, and he literally like headbutts the ball and bounces it like with his face or with his chest or something like that. He like actually runs into the ball itself. That's actually a result of a lack of proprioception, that the body not having sort of the proper proprioceptive capacity that this very violent motion that the body is making is the result. And it's that the body is trying to figure out a way of sort of figuring out where it is in space. And you know, this is something we can't really understand, unfortunately. We can only witness it because, you know, how people don't have no proprioception and then gain it. You have a certain potential for how high your proprioception can probably go, and that you do things that end up teaching you higher and higher levels of proprioception. Oh man, this person parked their car someplace they weren't supposed to, and it's like they're going to be really lucky their car doesn't get totally fucking destroyed. Somebody's going to hit this car, I'm sure of it. But that's the thing with proprioception and physical education, that without proper physical education, you don't get proper proprioception. And the result, you end up getting people that the way that they interact with the world is sort of this really awkward thing, because they don't have the physical proprioception to deal with the world around them with confidence. So there's an awkwardness in the way that their body behaves. They'll also have then you get also with the lack of the muscle development, and that's neuromuscular at its basis, that you start to also get the issue of sort of the stress chemicals, cortisol. But beyond that, you also get where this is something that really comes out of the traditions from the East Asian martial arts. That the East Asian martial arts, the key to it, one of the most important things is Bodhidharma, that these people saying all things are empty, blah, 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 and Bodhidharma hits him with a sandal. And he's like, why did you hit me with a sandal? And he goes, but all things are empty. He goes, yeah, but you hit me. He goes, if all things are empty, how did you feel that? And so he wanted to get across to these people, because this was when Buddhism had a quality of being kind of phony baloney in China, and people would be thinking about all these blissful states and all this highfalutin stuff that they had heard from the scriptures, but they really didn't understand fundamental Buddhist meditation. And that really has to do with this idea of, be present, this stupid middle class, like white girl kind of thing. Be present, or you just had some gayish dude teach like the one thing he got out of the Zen monastery after 30 years. I took lots of acid as a hippie. Then I went to Japan, and with honor, like a samurai, I became a Zen monk. And now, as an old dude, I'm going on Donahue. But, I'm not really that old. I'm old enough that I kind of am still, attractive to really, washed up bitches. But anyway, let me teach you what I learned as a Zen monk. That is to be present. Isn't that fucking stupid? Isn't that fucking gay? Yes, it's fake and gay, ladies. Buy my book. Fake and Gay with Robert Corcoran, former Zen monk. I'm going to write a book about how to have sex with your wife. It's going to be very, very well forgotten. Many women will read it and forget about it as they divorce their husbands, thinking younger men are interested in them. If you're just present and you breathe, you won't be old anymore. This is what I learned with the honor and the power of Zen. Yeah, you see, but it's starting to disturb the crows. But actually, it's. I kind of think it's now. I'm thinking about it. Out of all the stuff we get out of the Zen tradition, with karate and judo and all this stuff from the Zen tradition, that what do we hold on to these really terrible bumper sticker like phrases that are like these offshoots of Zen teachings that become these bumper stickers. And just breathe. Let it go. Da da da. It's just sad. It's just so sad. Just such a fake and gay, deracinated, weak people now. Rather than using all of the greatness and wisdom and knowledge to better ourselves. So you see, well, why America can't better the world until we better ourselves. And what that's going to come from is lifting some fucking weights. Lifting some fucking weights. Take the fucking weight and lift it. And the reason why you find all and so the leftists being wimps, it will never matter anything they ever say. This is the thing. One, you don't have to forgive. You don't have to forget. All you have to do is be stronger than them. I'm serious. All you have to do is be physically stronger than them. Like at this stage, I can't really make this clear enough how nobody's getting how simple an equation this is. Like, I am exposed constantly to people. I'm exposed constantly to people. I never call in ill because I regulate my diet well. I do have genetics for longevity and good health, apparently. But also I don't. Both my parents died. Like, before, I had to bury both my parents before I was 21. So, I mean, this is not an issue, it's like everybody's got their fucking problems. But it's that I maintain the proper BMI. That's like the most important thing. Like, I maintain the proper body mass index. And so it's like somebody like me with proper BMI, there's been almost like less than 20,000 hospitalizations of men in my BMI and age category. And you look at my kind of medical category, that's less than 20,000 men in the whole country. I'm almost 50. I'm like a handful of years away from 50. And I didn't have to worry at all about the vid whatsoever. Never even really thought about it. I think I had at the first lockdown some tightness in my lungs. And that was about it for about like a day. That was it. And it's because I maintained good health and good physical condition. And so I just really want to make this clear that there is no like losing to the left as long as you lift weights. As long as you're stronger than the leftists, like physically stronger, you will never lose to them because it coincides with everything. That kind of discipline is everything. That the leftists are undisciplined but sort of take themselves too seriously. And that's what's going to cost them in the long run. The fact that they're weak, deracinated, lazy, and take themselves too serious is what's really always costing them, but is going to cost them big in the long run. And so so make sure your kids are properly trained in physical education. Like, just have them learn how to lift properly. And this applies to males and females. That was one of the other things that Pavel Tsatsouline, from the beginning, I remember one of his first question and answer things from, I think it was like Vitalix magazine, was how do you train women differently than men? And he goes, I do not. I train them all the same. And it was because there's the protocols work the same. If you understand how to do it properly, the protocols work the same. They might lift different weights and they might lift at different rates. The lifts, though, have to do with physics, and when it comes to training protocols, for the most part, Pavel Tsatsouline was correct, and that's why Pavel Tsatsouline was so important. That women and men's training is pretty much the same. It's that in general, and that's the thing. In general, they're going to be generally the same, because you're looking for really something that is an absolute science. And this is another reason why you just should not trust the fatties and the lazies who are on the left, because they won't deal with the fact that this is an absolute science. And definitely don't ever think the trainees know what they're talking about. People along those lines are the most busted and the most fucked up. They're really heavily an example of the result of having like lazy fat stuffs in charge of the training of the youth. That's there's no way around that. They're fucked up in a whole different way. But yeah, so I just want to put that out there because it was something I was thinking about. It was just something I was thinking about. All right, peace.